this is the first time that I had peace. Like, before I sang, because I usually be like, oh Lord, I gotta do this song, But this time I was like, you know what? Let's just get up there and sing. And I wasn't stressed, I didn't miss no lyrics, I didn't do nothing. It was just a peace that came over me, and I'm thankful for that.
They say success changes everything. But for Jamal Robert, it didn't just change his life. It revealed everything he'd been trying to hide. The pain, the silence, the quiet things he smiled through while the world cheered him on. On that glittering night, when confetti rained down and millions of people called his name, nobody saw the storm brewing behind his eyes. Because while America crowned him their new idol, Jamal knew something most of them didn't: the truth behind the lights ain't always pretty. And now, he couldn't take it anymore. What started as a dream was slowly turning into something else.
26 million people voted. Took the time out of their schedule to make sure I got this right here. That's an amazing journey. So many people believe in me, and that just gives me that urge to just keep moving and keep pushing.
A nightmare dressed up in gold and cameras. Behind closed doors, Jamal saw how the game was really played. Who got to shine, who got to speak, who was told to smile, stay quiet, and be grateful. But Jamal's spirit had already been through too much to go silent again. And when he finally spoke, really spoke, he didn't just call out the system, he called out the silence that's been protecting it for years. This is the story of what happens when a man who's been told to wait his turn decides he's done waiting. When pain turns into power. When one voice, tired of being polite, finally says, enough. Stay with me. Because once you hear what Jamal revealed, you'll understand why this story is shaking the entire industry. Jamal's journey didn't begin with fame. It began in a one-bedroom apartment in Georgia, where the sound of his mother humming old gospel songs filled the air every morning. They didn't have much. Sometimes the lights would flicker out before payday. But what they did have was love, music, and hope. His mom used to tell him, your voice is your gift, baby. Don't let the world make you forget that. He never did. As a kid, Jamal sang in every small town church that would let him. His voice wasn't just loud, it was honest. It carried his soul in every note. People used to say he sang like someone twice his age. Someone who'd already lived through heartbreak, loss, and resurrection. But behind that power was pain. He knew what it was like to see his mom cry quietly over bills. He knew the feeling of walking home from school wearing the same shoes another year in a row.
One part of the competition, I was like, I think I can chill now a little bit, but she was like, I want to see more, and it was just consistency, and I understood that completely.
Music became the one place he felt free, but the industry, that was a different world. From the moment he started chasing that dream professionally, Jamal noticed how doors opened for some, but stayed locked for others. He saw artists who looked nothing like him getting record deals after one performance. While he was told to come back next season, he tried to brush it off. He tried to believe it wasn't personal, but deep down, he knew. Then came American Idol, that one shot, that one door he refused to let close again. When he stepped onto that stage for the first time, he wasn't just singing, he was surviving. Every note carried the weight of all the times he'd been told no. Every lyric was a prayer that maybe, just maybe, this time the world would finally listen. And when they did, it changed everything. His audition went viral. Millions watched his trembling hands, his tears, and that soulful performance that left even the judges speechless. Overnight, Jamal became a symbol, the underdog who made it. But what nobody knew then was that his biggest fight hadn't even started yet. As the competition went on, Jamal noticed the little things, the kind that don't make headlines but leave scars. The way producers suggested he toned down his style because it might not connect with the mainstream audience. The way certain contestants got promoted.
The winner of American Idol is Jamal Robert.
Featured and spotlighted more often, while his performances were sometimes trimmed or shifted last minute. People called him paranoid, but Jamal knew patterns when he saw them. Still, he stayed focused. He kept singing, kept smiling, kept pushing. Week after week, he brought the kind of emotion that made people cry at home. He turned pain into beauty. He won the show, fair and square. But winning didn't stop the whispers. If anything, it made them louder. Is he too political? Is his look commercial enough? Can he cross over? Words like that became constant echoes in rooms he wasn't even in. When Jamal finally gave his now famous winner's speech, he didn't play it safe. He looked straight into the camera and told the truth about how the same show that made him a star had also made him question his worth. How the industry's idea of marketability was often just another word for exclusion. His voice cracked when he said, "If I have to hide who I am to make you comfortable, then this win means nothing." That clip set the internet on fire. But that was just the beginning. In the months that followed, Jamal's fame skyrocketed. He was on every talk show, every morning segment, every late-night interview. They wanted him to smile, to perform, to say the right things. But behind that smile, Jamal was breaking, because when the cameras turned off, he felt the weight of everything he'd said. The phone calls from executives advising him to be careful. The subtle threats disguised as brand advice.
Maybe that it'll settle in probably later on tonight or in the morning or something, but I'm just like, I'm in awe. This has been a dream. God is good, and I'm so thankful. I'm grateful for every opportunity. I'm thankful for American Idol. Everybody that's played a big part in this moment. I love you, and I'm just grateful.
The silence from people who once called him a friend. Even some of his fellow contestants unfollowed him on social media after he spoke out. But the real breaking point came during his first national tour. In city after city, Jamal noticed the same pattern. Venues changing his set list, radio hosts skipping over his interviews, and people behind the scenes whispering about how controversial he'd become. One night in Chicago, after a show that ended with technical glitches cutting his mic early, Jamal sat alone backstage staring at the floor. For the first time, he said it out loud. "They're trying to silence me." And he wasn't wrong. Emails leaked later showed that some media partners had deliberately limited his exposure, calling his image too heavy for mainstream. Others called his honesty career suicide. But here's the twist. Instead of backing down, Jamal doubled down. He started using his platform to talk about what really goes on behind those polished stages. In live streams, interviews, and podcasts, he opened up about the racism he faced, the coded language, the microaggressions that chipped away at his confidence for years. He told stories that made fans' jaws drop, like how producers once told him his song choice was too urban for a family audience, or how a label executive suggested he lighten up both in tone and image if he wanted crossover success. Each revelation hit harder than the last. Social media exploded. Hashtags calling for justice and equality in the industry trended for weeks. Fans demanded accountability. Other black artists began sharing their own stories, confirming everything Jamal had been brave enough to say out loud. But while fans rallied behind him, the industry grew colder. Some radio stations quietly pulled his songs. A major endorsement deal suddenly fell through. One of his music videos was mysteriously delayed for months with no explanation. Insiders whispered that Jamal was being blackballed, punished for telling the truth. And yet, Jamal didn't stop, because once you've lived through the fire, smoke doesn't scare you anymore. He began writing again, songs full of pain, power, and protest. Tracks that spoke directly to every artist who's ever been told they were too much. His new music wasn't polished for radio. It was raw, real, unapologetic. And when he previewed one of his songs on Instagram Live, a stripped-down piano ballad titled Still Here, thousands tuned in. The comments flooded with tears, prayers, and love. "This isn't just music," one fan wrote. "This is healing. But healing doesn't come easy when you're fighting alone." Jamal's mother, the woman who raised him to believe in his voice, started worrying. She told him to protect his peace, to rest, to take care of his heart. But Jamal couldn't let go. "Mom," he said, "if I stay silent, then what was all this for?" That's when he made a decision that changed everything again. He announced he was starting a foundation, the Robert Project, to support young black artists who feel unseen, unheard, or dismissed. He said, "If the doors won't open, we'll build our own." The announcement broke the internet again. Celebrities, activists, and even other Idol alumni reached out in support. Donations poured in from fans across the country. For the first time, Jamal's truth wasn't just a cry for help. It was a movement. But behind the applause, Jamal still battled doubt. There were nights he couldn't sleep, haunted by the pressure of carrying an entire conversation on his shoulders. He knew speaking out came with a price, one he was already paying. But he also knew silence had cost him far more. The emotional toll was real. Friends noticed he smiled less. Interviews became harder. He started turning down events, choosing peace over publicity. Some blogs twisted that into stories about him fading away, calling him difficult. But those who truly knew him saw the truth. He wasn't fading. He was healing. One night, during a small private concert in Atlanta, Jamal shared something that left the audience in tears. He said, "For years I thought my voice was my gift, but now I realize my truth is. The voice can fade, the fame can fade, but truth lasts." That moment was raw, unfiltered, real. He talked about how racism doesn't always look like hate. Sometimes it looks like erasure, like being left out of conversations, like being told your story is too heavy, your sound too specific, your passion too loud. He said, "I spent years trying to be what they wanted, but now I just want to be free." And in that freedom, something shifted. The same industry that once tried to silence him began to listen. Producers, journalists, and even executives started reaching out privately, acknowledging the conversations he sparked. Quietly, change began, small but real. Now, years later, Jamal isn't just known as a singer. He's known as a truth teller, a man who took the pain of a system designed to silence him and turned it into purpose. His music still moves millions. His foundation still uplifts young artists who remind him of himself. Hungry, scared, but full of light. And even though the scars remain, Jamal wears them like medals, proof that he fought back and didn't break. He once said, "I used to dream of standing on a big stage. Now I dream of standing in my truth." And that's exactly what he's doing. Because Jamal Robert didn't just call out racism. He exposed the silence that keeps it alive. He reminded the world that success without justice isn't success at all. That fame without freedom feels like a cage. And maybe that's why his story hits so hard. Because deep down, everyone watching knows what it feels like to be unseen, unheard, or underestimated. So when Jamal raised his voice, again, louder this time, it wasn't just for himself. It was for every dreamer who's ever been told they don't belong. Every artist who's been told to shrink. Every kid who's been told to wait. Every soul who's been told not yet. His voice became theirs. His fight became ours. And maybe that's the real win. Not the trophy, not the fame, but the courage to speak when the world would rather you stay quiet. Because Jamal Robert didn't lose everything. He found himself. And sometimes, that's louder than any song.